Argentum, Mirrodin, New Phyrexia. Change is inevitable when we strive for perfection. And if there is one thing that the Praetors of New Phyrexia strive for, it is perfection. Atraxa is the culmination of their efforts. Or at least 4 of their efforts. Like, Elishnorn left like 20 messages on Urrak's phone, but he just kept hitting them with a "No, Lamal." Wait. One of the first 4-color commanders to release way back in 2016, and of all of them, she has the most straightforward and simple effect. 4 keywords in Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink, and then this teeny tiny little sentence at the end, which reads, at the beginning of your end step, proliferate. Now, in the year of our Lord and Savior 2025, this has kinda aged a bit if I'm being honest. But when Atraxa first released, and for almost an entire decade after, this commander was the most brewed in the entire format. Literally until this year. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. Energy counters, Planeswalkers, Infect, +1/+1 counters, Sagas, Phyrexians, -1/-1 counters. Atraxa is an incredibly versatile commander. Basically, if you're going to put dice on anything, this commander is sitting there rubbing its greedy little hands together. And of all the commanders I own, Atraxa is one of the oldest. Since I initially cracked open the Breed Lethality commander deck, I've tried building her so many different ways. But it wasn't until the release of Phyrexia All Will Be One that I decided to dust off this commander and really give her a shiny new update. So, if you want to be that guy at the table who's constantly ticking up everyone's poison counters, preparing to ultimate Planeswalkers, and making all of your creatures down to the humblest monodork completely roided out monsters oozing with that sweet Phyrexian soy sauce, then stick around. As with all of my commander deck texts, this video is going to be divided into sections where we talk about each card type. So if you're wanting to see what specific Planeswalkers or enchantments I'm running, feel free to skip to the timestamps below. And as usual, my full deck list will also be down in the video description. But first up, brackets. My Atraxa build lands squarely in the bracket 4 slot. Not because of any infinite combos, but mostly due to the number of game changers we're running. And the small chance of chaining together some extra turns, but we'll get to that. So, make sure if you do want to try and play this deck, your playgroup are well informed of your intentions. Honestly, it wouldn't be too hard to knock this deck down to a bracket 3 deck, honestly, but Atraxa was one of the first decks I really wanted to push as hard as I could. We run a total of 10 sorceries in Atraxa. Starting off, we have 3 sorcery speed board wipes in White Sun's Twilight, Phyresis Outbreak, and Toxic Deluge. I'm a firm believer that every deck should have a couple of board wipes in case things get out of hand. And our choice of board wipes are not only on theme, but in some cases completely one-sided. Firstly, White Sun's Twilight gains us X life and creates X 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might tokens with Toxic 1. These little cuddlebugs here can't block for shit, but the fact that they have Toxic is very relevant to our goals. Oh, and did I mention that if we cast the spell with X being 5 or more, we destroy all other creatures? Yeah, what better way to clear the board of threats than to also stock up on a bunch of creatures that can spread some poison counters around the table. Gotta love it. Similarly, Phyresis Outbreak gives each opponent a poison counter, then all the creatures they control get -1/-1 for each poison counter its controller has. This card is fantastic and a very strong board wipe in later turns of the game. But even to cast this at earlier stages, it's gonna both get the Poison Trainer running and probably clear out some dorks or tokens. And lastly, I mean, there's Toxic Deluge. I mean, what can I say here? This is a great board wipe. It's probably the strongest board wipe in the format. Next, we have 3 ramp spells in 3 visits, Farseek, and Nature's Lore. You may notice a lack of Cultivate or Kodama's Reach here, and there's a very valid reason for that. Atraxa being 4 colors means we really need to ensure we're getting the colors we need as soon as possible. So our ramp and land base has been curated as such, and means we don't have a ton of basic lands. These tutors will let us find multicolored lands that have those land types when we need them. We run Infectious Inquiry as another cheeky little poison starting point, as well as drawing us some cards, which is always nice. Then there's Vindicate for some nice, versatile removal. Grim Tutor because, well, I had a pretty full art foil copy spare, so here it is. And lastly, some absolute spice in Eerie Ultimatum. This card may have one of the most color-intensive casting costs in the game, but thanks to our land base, we are not going to be struggling to cast the spell and bring back some seriously insane value. From fetch lands, to discarded Planeswalkers, to some big nasty Phyrexian beaters. Trust me when I say, this card just ends games. Next up, we run 9 instants in Atraxa, as we need to have a lot of interaction at this kind of power bracket. So, naturally, we have some counter magic in both Force of Will and Mana Drain. I'm not a big fan of counter spells, as I've mentioned before on the channel, as they can kind of garner a lot of eye rolls from your table, but sometimes you do just need to stop a Crater Hoof or a Torment of Hailfire from resolving. So we just run a sprinkling of them here. Next, we have a nice little suite of removal spells in Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, Infectious Bite, and Atomize. You don't need me to tell you how great those first 2 are, but let me sell you on the second 2. Infectious Bite is a 2-mana pseudo-fight spell that has target creature you control deal damage equal to its power to a creature you don't control. Then, each opponent gets a poison counter. Not only does this little 2-mana trick get everyone on the poison clock like we mentioned we want to be doing, but our commander has Death Touch, meaning even a cheeky little nibble from her is going to kill anything this targets. And as for Atomize, I mean, it nukes a non-land permanent and proliferates for 4 mana. It's utter end, but with an on-theme upside. Yes, please. And that leaves our 3 instant speed game changers in Vampiric Tutor, Cyclonic Rift, and the newly promoted Teferi's Protection. Now, I have seen players boast that their Atraxa decks have 20 Planeswalkers or 30 Planeswalkers, and honestly, as someone who's played this commander for as long as I have, that is some major overkill. We run 11 Planeswalkers here and are very strict on our choices. Kicking things off, the top of our curve here is Eugene. Ugin the Spirit Dragon. 8 mana of any color to be able to bolt things, exile colored CMC permanents, which you do want to be a little careful doing, and of course, it's over-the-top ultimate. Then we have Nissa, Ascendant Animist, at 7 mana. However, you can cast her for as low as 5 mana if you want to pay the 2 Phyrexian in life. Great flexibility here. She upticks to make a big ol' Phyrexian horror. She downticks to destroy target artifact or enchantment. This here is hugely useful. Or she ultimates to give our creatures +1/+1 for each forest we control and trample. Yeah, okay, the ultimate is kind of meh. You'll usually be upticking or downticking her, but we can definitely use this to wrap up games thanks to Yavimaya and our curated land base. Next up is Vraska, Betrayal Sting. coming in at 6 mana, or again 5 if you don't mind spending just a little life. She has a 0 ability to draw you a card, lose a life, and proliferate. So I mean, technically, it's an uptick to draw, which is stellar. Her downtick makes target creature, commander, a treasure that loses all other abilities. Great removal, and an actually cracked ultimate that sees her bump a player all the way up to 9 poison counters. Very Vraska ult there. And at 5 mana, we run Elspeth Resplendent. And honestly, hear me out on this one, okay? Now, firstly, her uptick allows us to put a 1/1 counter and our choice of a flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance counter onto a target creature. Now, giving Atraxa both a +1/+1 counter and a first strike counter not only means she's killing anything that blocks her thanks to that combo of Death Touch and first strike, but we're also allowing her to proliferate herself. Her downtick lets us look at the top 7 cards of our library and put a permanent card with 3 converted mana cost onto the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Imagine flipping over Aristic Studies and having it enter with a shield counter that you're going to proliferate for the rest of the game. This is really versatile downtick, thanks to our curve. Meaning, we're most likely going to always see something useful here, even if it's a land. And finally is that ultimate. 5/3/3 angels. Yeah, it's okay. I don't know why they're only 3/3s and not 4/4s like 99% of other angel tokens, but, you know, here we are. Also at 5 mana, we have the good old classic Tezzeret the Seeker. He upticks to untap 2 target artifacts. He downticks to search for any artifact card and put that sucker straight onto the battlefield, usually used in tandem with the Chain Veil. Or he has an ultimate that you and I both don't care about, let's be honest. Next up at 5, we have Tevesh Zat, Doom of Fools. This walker is an absolute unit, with 2 upticks, one creating 2 0/1 black thralls, and the other letting you sack a creature to draw 2 cards. 3 cards if that creature you sacked was a commander. And an ultimate that literally yoinks everyone's commanders no matter where they are. This guy is great for providing bodies, card draw, and salt in that order. Next up is Tamiyo, Compleated Sage at 5 CMC, or you can pay that Phyrexian mana to get her in at 4. Honestly, the Bant Tamiyo is a little stronger than this one, but I really wanted to lean into that Phyrexian theme. And she's honestly still a great card. Tapping something down and keeping it tapped on an uptick is fine, but that downtick to exile something from your graveyard and create a token copy of it? This has such a high ceiling depending on your playgroup. I've loved it. And of course, that ultimate giving us an artifact that both reduces the cost of all of our spells by 2 and lets us tap to draw a card? That's pretty damn good. Like, I do wish it wasn't a legendary artifact so we could stack these up, but, you know, it's still good as is. Next, we have everyone's favorite big cat daddy, a Johnny Sleeper Agent. Coming in at 4 CMC, but say it with me again, if we pay the Phyrexian, he's just 3 CMC. And boy, does this Leonin do work. His uptick lets us reveal the top card, and if it's a creature or a planeswalker, we get to put it into our hand. This is a 32% hit chance in our deck, which isn't too bad. His downtick allows us to distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among up to 3 target creatures. These creatures also benefit from Vigilance until the end of the turn. This is a nice way to get some counters onto creatures so that we can embiggen them with our future proliferates. And that Vigilance means we can get in there for some little chip damage while keeping our creatures back up to block for our planeswalkers. And finally, that ultimate. Oh, that sweet, sweet ultimate. For -6, we get an emblem that reads, whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. Yeah, this is gonna turbo body bag people. And honestly, with how quick a Johnny can come out, we can get this ultimate off extremely early. I don't normally try to gun for ultimates on planeswalkers, as they're often going to be hated out by the rest of the table. But this one can be backbreaking for the rest of the game. Also, here at 4CMC, we have Teferi, Master of Time, who has a diabolical passive that lets us activate his abilities during every player's turn. We'll mostly be using him to loot cards until we can get off a time stretch with that ultimate, but that downtick can also be super useful for phasing out any kind of threat. Then lastly, we have our 2 3CMC Planeswalkers in both Oko, Mr. Too Hot for Other Formats, and Ashiok, Dreamrender. Oko being able to just elk people's commanders on an uptick is really oppressive, and that ultimate could let us steal other players' commanders to feed to our boy Tevesh Zad. We love that! And Ashiok is mostly here for that diabolical passive that stops opponents, not us, from searching their libraries. But that downtick is never irrelevant. We can opt to mill ourselves if we know an Eerie Ultimatum is coming, or just picking a control player or graveyard player to mill their 4 top cards, then exile all of your opponent's graveyards. Flashback spells, dredge, delve, get that shit out of here. We run a total of 5 enchantments here. First up being the unique Planeswalker's Aura, Teferi's Talent. This grants the enchanted planeswalker both a passive ability, which allows you to put a loyalty counter on them whenever you draw a card, and a new additional ultimate, which is -12, you get an emblem with you may activate loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control on any player's turn, anytime you could cast an instant. Yeah, that Teferi passive on Master of Time, but on every walker we have. This is seriously huge, and will often lead to a win outright due to the overwhelming value other planeswalkers get when you activate them during every player's turn. Next up is Doubling Season, and Atraxa Classic. Sure, it's kind of a 5 mana do-nothing card on the turn you play it, but the fact that a lot of our planeswalkers make tokens means we utilize both sides of this card pretty well. It's the only deck I actually run Doubling Season in nowadays, but it is still an absolute house when it sticks, allowing us to usually ultimate planeswalkers the minute they hit the board. Then there's Norn's Decree. It's like a ghostly prison, but way scarier in this deck. So, sure, your opponents can attack you, if they don't mind getting another poison counter, but that second part of the card encourages them to attack another player who has a poison counter. We'll always see the upside of this card, because we're naturally going to be giving everyone poison counters. But the amount of times I've had an opponent read this card, pause, then go, well, I might as well just attack another player, then I get a card and don't get a poison counter. It's both incentive and a rattlesnake effect. I love it. And really, 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 really wish it came in foil. Speaking of card draw, the next enchantment is Rhystic Study, because of course it's in here. And finally, we have Skrelv's Hive, giving us a little toxic one might on our upkeeps. And if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, which they will, creatures we control with toxic have lifelink. Whether this is just the mites it creates, or the abundance of nasty Phyrexian creatures we have, this enchantment does work. And speaking of those creatures, talk about a segue, right? We run 21 creatures in Atraxa, 14 of which are Phyrexians, for both theme and functionality, leaving the remaining 7 creatures to serve mostly as utility creatures. So, let's start with those. Firstly are our mana dorks. We run 3 in Feyburrow Elder, Biophagus, and Birds of Paradise. Feyburrow can make a ton of mana thanks to us having a 4-color commander, while Biophagus is a great 2-mana dork that also gives the creature you cast with it a +1/+1 counter. Synergy. Then of course we have Birds of Paradise, because a 1-mana flying dork that can tap for any of our colors is just too good to pass up. Next up are our 3 Planeswalker support cards in Karth the Lion, Lae'zel Vlaakith's Champion, and Flux Channeler. Karth is super interesting in that he alters the activated ability cost of walkers by +1, meaning a 0 activation becomes +1, and a downtick suddenly just becomes a 0. Very cool card. And when he enters or a Planeswalker dies, you can look at the top 7 cards of your library and reveal another Planeswalker to put into your hand. Lae'zel is just kind of a better-hearted Scales for us, putting additional counters on creatures and additional loyalty counters on Planeswalkers. I may not have wanted to hook up with her in Baldur's Gate 3, but Atraxa and Lae'zel are pretty comfortable bedfellows. And then we have Flux Channeler, who just says whenever we cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. Casting 45% of our deck is going to net us a proliferate off Flux Channeler. So, while she may not be a Phyrexian physically, she is one in her heart. Speaking of honorary Phyrexians, we also run Bloodroot Apothecary. I think the only squirrel in Magic the Gathering with Toxic, and with such a diabolical effect attached to it too. She reads, when Bloodroot Apothecary enters, you and target opponent each create a treasure token. Hey, that's nice. A little ramp, we like that. Oh wait, but there's a little more here. She also says, whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-creature token, that player gets 2 poison counters.
Whoa! Hell yes, whoa!
You nasty little fucker. I love this card. Opponents sacking a bunch of treasures, food tokens, clues, lantern tokens, blood tokens get absolutely punished. No card keeps treasure tokens in check quite like this one does. And with that toxic little text piece introduced, let's segue onto our perfect Phyrexian fighting force. Vishgraz the Doomhive makes some mites on entry, gets bigger for every poison counter on our opponents, and has Menix and Toxic. Skitherix, or Skittles, is an absolute classic, straight out of Scars of Mirrodin. You can give him haste, regenerate him, and flap on over to do 4 infect in the air at some poor unfortunate soul. Next is Norn's Choirmaster, a flapping first striker who proliferates whenever our commander enters the battlefield or attacks. Love it. Then we have Contaminant Grafter, a trample toxic druid who proliferates on dealing combat damage and has the bonus of letting us draw a card and play a land from our hand onto the battlefield if at least one opponent has 3 or more poison counters. Next up, we have Atraxa's daughter herself, Ixhel, Scion of Atraxa. With flying, vigilance, and toxic too, Ixhel excels at putting poison counters on people in the air, then triggering that saucy, corrupted effect at the end of the turn to let us exile the top card of each poisoned opponent and let us cast those spells with mana of any color. It's card advantage, it's poison, we love it. Next up is Azuri, Stalker of Spears. When he enters the battlefield, we can pay 3, bumping his cost up from 4 to 7. Now, why would we want to do this? Simple, we get 2 proliferates if we do. And he also reads, whenever you proliferate, draw a card. At worst, he's a 4 mana lad that's gonna get us some draw on end step. But at his best, we're drawing 2 as he enters, then another on our end step. Great stuff. Speaking of proliferating twice, this here is Techathal, Inquiry Dominus. He literally just reads, if you proliferate twice instead, and has a way to make himself indestructible. Double proliferates is absolutely diabolical, bordering a war crime, accelerating our Planeswalkers and Poison Wincon into the stratosphere. If this flappy octopus man resolves, your opponent's next turn probably are not happening. Next up is Viral Drake, Skittles' nerdy cousin in blue. He's a flappy, infectious 1/4, but has that fantastic utility to just pay 4 mana to proliferate on demand. I think this guy's supposed to be propelling himself into the air via his own farts, so at least that's what the artwork's looking like, so. Nasty stuff, he's perfect. Speaking of nasty, Icarats is a 3-drop infect creature that gives every player a poison counter on ETB. With so many new cards now that just give out poison counters when you cast them, Icarats has been a little power crept. But I still think this is a solid include in the deck as another card that once again just gets that poison a-rolling. Then we have Bloated Contaminator, a 3-drop trample toxic creature who reads, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. Next up is a Planeswalker, ex-Planeswalker, Invencer, Corpse Puppet. And Jesus, has Venser seen better days. But for a 2-mana 1/3 with lifelink and toxic 1 and proliferate payoffs? Yes, please. I'll take him and all of his trauma. Then we have this cute little guy, Voidwing Hybrid. It's a cheaply costed flying toxic bat that when we proliferate, when we proliferate, we can return him from our graveyard to our hand. Venerated Rot Priest is a 1-mana toxic 1 druid that gives us some great ways to spite our opponent's spells. We get to put a poison counter on a target opponent whenever our creatures are targeted by the effect of a spell. And finally, we have Skrelv, the most perfect little boy. I mean, seriously, look at him. He's the defector might. So like, did he defect from Phyrexia to stage an uprising against Elish Norn? I don't know if there's a story about him, but I like to think so. Look at him, isn't he just the most perfect little actor? Okay. He's got Toxic 1, can block, but has this great little activated ability for 1 white Phyrexian, which gives another target creature Toxic 1 and hexproof from a color until end of turn. That creature also can't be blocked by the chosen color either. Great little utility lad and mascot to the deck as a whole. Go Team Skrelv! We run 11 artifacts in Atraxa, though we've already covered the coolest mine in town, Skrelv, so let's talk about the remaining 10. Now, out of these remaining 10, a whopping 7 of them are mana accelerants. You've got your Commander Classics here in Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, and Chrome Mox, but then we have a couple of very fun and unique mana rocks. First up are the pair of rocks you'd always expect to find in Atraxa, Everflowing Chalice and Astral Cornucopia. You can cast these guys nice and early in the game. You just want to make sure they're coming in with at least 1 charge counter, as at every end step, these are going to get more and more useful as the game goes on. Next up, we have Glistening Sphere, and this thing is fantastic. While it enters the battlefield tapped, it proliferates the turn it comes in. Then, our future turns, it can either tap for 1 mana of any color, or if an opponent has at least 3 poison counters on them, it can tap for 3 mana of any 1 color. This thing is an early Gilded Lotus with Proliferate on ETB. Then we round out the mana rocks with a little side of Gatewatch Beacon. It's a mana rock that enters the battlefield with 3 loyalty counters on it. Yeah, weird shit, right? It taps for a white mana, and whenever a Planeswalker enters the battlefield under your control, we can move a loyalty counter from it to that Planeswalker. Seeing as we'll keep on proliferating those loyalty counters, every Planeswalker we play after this card will get to enjoy the benefits of a little Gatewatch Bacon.
Everyone knows skunks love free bacon.
Now with the mana accelerants accounted for, that leaves us the last 3 utility artifacts in Staff of Completion, Ichor Gauntlet, and the Chain Veil. Staff of Completion is a very handy stick for Atraxa to twiddle around with. We can use it for mana, to proliferate, to draw a card, all at the cost of some life, which we'll always have plenty of thanks to Atraxa's lifelink. You can even pay 5 mana to untap this staff if you need to use more than one of these modes in a turn. Next, we have Ichor Gauntlet. This grants all of our Planeswalkers 2 new activated abilities of Proliferate, and the, slightly spicier take an extra turn after this one. But also lets us put another counter on target permanent whenever we cast a non-creature spell. And finally, we have the Chain Veil. Extra Planeswalker activations for 4 mana is a steal. And if we get this out with Tezzeret, or while Tezzeret's on the battlefield, we can even untap it to use it again. And finally, we reach the lands, of which we have 32 of. Now remember, we do have a lot of accelerants in the deck. So even if this might look a little low on paper, with 7 mana rocks, 3 mana dorks, and 3 sorceries to ramp us, we're more than fine here. For our gold lands, we're running City of Brass, the Seed Core for all its nice utility with Phyrexians, Command Tower, Gemstone Mine, because we can just proliferate those mining counters forever, Reflecting Pool, Exotic Orchard, Mana Confluence. We also run 4 of the Triome lands in Spara's Headquarters, Rafine's Tower, Indatha Triome, and Zagoth Triome, being fantastic early game fetch targets to ensure we're good on colors, and for late game cycling when we just don't need them. And lastly, we round it out with a Prismatic Vista. Moving on to more fetch lands, we run the 6 fetch lands in our colors. You could run all the fetch lands if you wanted to here, but seeing red fetches in decks without red visually triggers me. The matching 6 shock lands, both Yavimaya and Urborg for even more color fixing, 1 forest, 2 plains, 2 islands, 1 swamp, and the only colorless land that made the cut for me, Tyrite Sanctum, thanks to its ability to put a +1/+1 counter on something, and eventually make Atraxa an indestructible god. And that's my list. Some quick math to go over while we're here. We run 15 sources of mana acceleration, spread out amongst artifacts, sorceries, and creatures. 9 sources of card draw. This excludes cards like Ixhel, so we really have more than this, but this is literally cards that just let us straight up draw. 5 board wipe removals, which does include Cyclonic Rift. 6 targeted removals. 2 counter spells. And 20 direct sources of poison counters. Atraxa has always been a very fun commander to build around and play. And even as I'm making this list, I'm considering even more Phyrexian specific cards to add to the deck, to make it a little more on theme. Cards like Mirror Convert, Elish Norn, the flip one, Phyrexian Awakening, Phyrexian Censor, Bring the End, Corrupted Resolve. I really want to lean in hard to the Phyrexian theme of this deck, even if it gets just a little weaker because of it. I think Commander is a format that's at its most fun when you're playing with really thematic and flavorful decks, and is how I love to brew. I do wish we'd gotten a few more completed Planeswalkers that would have fit into this deck. The only one I left out of the list, of course, was Jace, because, well, honestly, I kind of think the Perfected Mind Jace sorta sucks outside of a very focused mill deck. But what do you guys think? Did I miss any spicy tech pieces that you guys choose to run in your Atraxa decks? I'd love to talk about it more in the comment section below. And if you enjoy my Magic-related content, I have a growing playlist of MTG videos I've made that you may enjoy that'll pop up at the end of the video. Which, speaking of, I'm going to now move to cast Farewell, everybody. put all of your permanents into exile, and I'll see you again next time. Take care of yourselves.